Okay, so what I wanted to start talking about is when you get into spiritualism, meditation, manifesting, things like that, it's so easy to want to tell somebody else about it. And I think that's a good thing, but I also think that could be a bad thing as well. And you could learn from it either way. And I say this because not that I think it's a good or a bad thing, but I really feel that when you are learning something like this, if you're trying to learn to meditate, to calm your mind so that you can hear yourself or hear your higher mind, I think that's a road that you have to take alone, at least at the beginning parts of this whole thing. And the less, and this may sound strange, but the less, or the lack of resources that you have around you may help you. Or not may help you, it will help you, because it will not force you into doing it, but you will take that path of learning simply because you want to improve your situation. And when you try to share this with someone else, what you may be doing is trying to get some help with this whole thing from someone else and not realize it, or not wanting to admit that to yourself, right? And I say that because that kind of happened to me. I'm on this, I was and I still am on this whole path, and you want to kind of take someone in with you, and you can bounce ideas off them and talk about things, and that's all great. You can still do that. But when you rely on a person or expect them to be at the same level that you are, they're not going to meet your expectations if you're really, if you really have your mind set on making strides, making gains, and really accomplishing something. Unless that person has the same ideas that you have, which are rare, because again, you're trying to tell someone and you're trying to get them on that path. So not a good idea to do that, because that can become a crutch for someone. And you really, when you first start this, you want to get traction, you want to get a good solid foundation for yourself first, and then it may be okay to bring somebody on board with you and things like that. But the less resources that you have around you, the better. And prior to this video, I made a video about a forced spiritual awakening. And for those of you that have been through it, you understand what I'm saying when sometimes resources can become very scarce. And I'm going to say some of us look at that and we'll again judge it, which you really shouldn't judge or label anything when you're going through an awakening. But I guess it's normal for someone that maybe is not awakening or isn't awakened that much, so to speak, to look at the scarceness of resources around you and consider that to be a bad thing. And I used to consider that to be a bad thing, and my mind has changed on that, because if it weren't for the lack of resources around me, whatever the case may be, it just could be it just so happens to be maybe what you need or not need to do what you need to do on a daily basis. And that could be any resource, okay? It could be anything. And if you find that those resources are dwindling or they're scarce, it is for a reason, okay? It is for a reason. And what made me think that way is, if you've done any research on awakenings or forced awakenings or spirituality as a whole, you'll hear things like, you'll hear people, and you know, it sounds kind of crazy when you hear it coming from someone, right? Because it's out of the normal, out of the norm of what we're used to listening to or hearing or speaking about ourselves. So what some people will say is they'll say, okay, well, you know, when you come to Earth, right? I know that sounds even just so funny to the ear, when you come to Earth, right? But anyhow, when you come to Earth, you're here for a reason, let's say. Okay, let's just have this conversation as if it were true, okay? You come to Earth and you come here to learn something. And when you get here, or before you get here, let's say you say you want your experience or your learning experience to be one particular thing, and that's the kind of theme that I want to awaken to, and that's the theme that I want to kind of carry out and turn around and go through the transformation as. So, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and I was telling her, yeah, you know, people say you come to Earth and you're here for a reason and you have a theme, and the whole purpose is to awaken and kind of get a perspective of the real you from, you know, a different mind or a different way of thinking, so to speak. And she says, well, I don't think I would do that, because, you know, the life is okay, it's, you know, but it has its down times, its up times, so I don't know if I'd make a conscious decision to do that. But if you think about it, okay, and you put a little bit of thought into this, if your whole objective is to come to a place to awaken and to get a new perspective on yourself, and you really want to test yourself, you probably would put yourself in, I don't want to say a negative situation, but you would put yourself into a situation that when you're sleeping, you would think it would be a difficult situation to get through. So, and if we in fact do that, and we come here and we want to get through something and learn and see ourselves from a different perspective, I guess the only way to do that would be to put yourself into a bit of a difficult situation. Because if you come here and you have everything, you have all the resources that you need, and everything is at your beck and call, chances are you're not going to awaken in the fashion that you wanted to awaken in. And, you know, so if you kind of put a spin on things and think of it that way, you know, the learning process and what you want to know will not only come easier, but it will be more enjoyable, and it'll kind of take some pressure off, and you won't blame yourself for being in a situation that you're in, possibly, and things of that nature. So it kind of makes sense to place yourself into, you know, a difficult spot, so to speak, now and then, to get a good perspective on how you would handle it. You know, what would I do in that case, and how would I handle it, and, you know, things like that. So, but it's just an interesting way of looking at life, I guess. So, but anyhow, again, getting back to that subject where you're, you know, you want to really awaken someone and have them come on the ride with you. I really don't think that's a good thing to do, and it will probably not only impede your true self, not only impede your true self from coming through, because now you're kind of thinking about what they're doing, and the gains that they're making or not making, or whatever the case may be. So as simple as you can have things and get through an awakening process, the better. That way you can focus on actually learning things about meditation, about manifestation, and how not to judge, how not to label, and of course the big one, how not to react to certain things. And of course you're going to do these things to some extent. You know, you're going to react a little bit, but you're not going to be in the same place you were before you started the process or after you finished it. Because when you're going through a process like this, when you really, what I like to do is kind of not test myself, but kind of just find out where I'm at. And for me, it's kind of easy to do that. I can really notice that I don't react to things like I used to, and the thoughts that are coming into my mind. I really didn't have a mind where my thoughts were always racing anyhow, but I wanted to get to the point where I could control my thoughts and control the amount of thoughts that would come into my head. And I'm able to do that, and so now I can kind of test myself as far as how many thoughts are coming into my mind by looking at a clock or using a stopwatch or something like that, and just seeing how many thoughts come in a minute's time or 5 minutes time. And then of course another good test would be to just notice how you're reacting to things. You know, it's a great test. And another good test would be, can I have a conversation with someone and give them 100% of my ear and also be aware of what's going on around me? So those three things are really good signs if you're heading in the right direction. And if you're at that point where you want to give yourself a test, those three things would be a good starting place. So, but as far as trying to get someone else on board and trying to awaken them, or whatever the case may be, not a good idea. Just by you having a conversation with them, or just by them being around you, or you having a conversation with them, they're going to realize that something is different about you. Probably because you're much more calm and you are listening. Because when you tend to listen to someone, that is probably the best compliment that you can give anyone. It is 100% of your ear. And they're going to notice it. So if someone asks for your help on how to awaken, or has questions and things like that, of course help them and answer when they're asking, because that's the perfect opportunity to do that. But if someone doesn't ask and they're really not, they really don't care about the topic, or they really don't know what it is, especially if they don't know what it is, then you just want to stay away from it. And you know, that could be another, you could use that as another tool to test yourself. Because when you do awaken, you can see the things that people do. You can kind of see the masks that we wear, and you become more and more in tune with these things. And not that it's anything bad; it's just something that we do as people. It's just who we are. But when you awaken, you just tend to notice that more and more, even about yourself. When you're explaining something to someone and you're in that awakening process, you'll kind of even point out things about yourself. Yeah, I see myself acting in this way, and I can kind of see my personality or see my ego really coming out when I had that conversation. So things like that are good tests, and because if you're anything like me, you would be like, you're having a spiritual experience, but you're not spiritual kind of thing, but you're fascinated by the whole world of spiritualism. You know, you're going to want to test yourself, and those are perfect ways to do it. So that's about all that was on my mind for right now. If I think of anything else, I will add it to this video or make another. But thanks for watching, and as always, I wish you the best on your spiritual journey.